Coming up next on Ham Nation, a fascinating program. We're going to talk all about the California wildfires. We'll have news of the week from Amateur Radio Newsline. And George has a fascinating segment on thermography. What is thermography? Watch and see and learn. Next on Ham Nation.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This episode of Ham Nation is brought to you by DX Engineering. DX Engineering offers practically everything you need to outfit your shack, plus the fastest shipping in the industry. Most in-stock items ship the same day, Monday through Friday until 10 p.m. Eastern. For more information, visit dxengineering.com/hamnation. By ICOM. For more information, visit icomamerica.com/hamnation. And by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Introducing Rate Shield Approval. If you're in the market to buy a home, Rate Shield Approval locks up your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. It's a real game changer. Learn more and get started at rocketmortgage.com/hamnation.
This is Ham Nation, episode number 376, November 14th, 2018. The California wildfires. Hey, good evening, everybody. It's Wednesday night. You're sitting in front of your computer and or other mobile device, or perhaps you're in front of your Roku on your great big fancy schmancy TV. No matter where you are, it's Ham Nation time. And Bob Heil is out doing Bob Heil stuff, so we have the regular cast of idiots around here. Let's head up slightly to my north by a couple of hours and see what's going on up in the Jackson, Mississippi. Let's see. Look, he's right there, but that's not quite a couple of hours. Look. Oh, where's my finger? Where's my George? Where's my finger?
No, Don. Yeah, it has been very cold in the chicken coop here today. I tell you, it's 32 degrees below normal here in Mississippi, and I know y'all are experiencing more or less the same weather down there, Don. You know, last week I told you I had a new piece of test equipment I was really excited about. Well, we're going to take a look at that this week.
Oh, good deal. Yeah, I'm looking at the my thing here. It's 38 degrees right now here in South Mississippi, which is a little on the cold side. And if you can zoom in on that, you can see that 30 will be the low tonight and 30 will be the low tomorrow night. So these people down here are losing their ever-loving minds. It's so funny. When my wife worked at an auto parts store, when it would get to 45 degrees down here, they would have a run on Prestone antifreeze. I shudder to think how many unopened gallons of antifreeze there are stuck in garages all around New Orleans. Let's head out to the west, to where out in California, where they sleep out every night. Gordon West.
Well, thank you. And want to remind everybody that incoming this weekend is the Leonids meteor shower. That's from the Temple-Tuttle comet, and you'll get 10 to 15 an hour. And if you're running MSK 144, you should be able to make a contact off of a meteor this weekend. Also, this weekend is the Fort Wayne Hamfest on Saturday and Sunday. This weekend, Coral Gables, they're having their Hamfest. And on Saturday, this weekend, between 1500 and 1900, Great South Bay Amateur Radio Club says that the Fireboat Firefighter in New York City, that's seen ton of action, will have hams on board making contact. So it's going to be a busy weekend. Don, back to you.
Yeah, sure will. And that sounds like a lot of fun. We're going to talk to Amanda out in Colorado right now. Amanda, how are you doing? You're going to talk about fires with your guest tonight, aren't you?
That's absolutely correct. We're going to talk about some California wildfires that have been going absolutely crazy and also absolutely devastating. We're going to have Greg, KG6 SJT, with us tonight. He's a section emergency coordinator for Sacramento Valley, and he's going to be telling us what they've been doing out there to help support the wildfires. So stay tuned for that. Not to mention, I'll be taking some of your questions still, so send those my way as well.
Right, watching the chat room. Yeah, it's a bad scene out there. We don't have a solar update from Dr. Scove because, well, she's living in that area. But I do have a message for her. She says, yes, we are still okay. It's been hectic here, though. One of my friend's sisters lost her home in Malibu Lake. Another was evacuated from Thousand Oaks for 3 days, but has since returned home. At least her home is still standing. Lots of others haven't been so lucky. We're still flanked to the west and to the south by evacuation zones. Over 25 contiguous miles of Pacific Coast Highway have been and remain closed. The worst Malibu has seen in 30 years, actually. And she sent a picture. This is what my friend saw in Thousand Oaks when the police woke her up to evacuate Friday morning at 2 a.m. She had the presence of mind to snap a picture before she left. I'm just going to hold this up to the camera, and you can see if you can get a...
Wow.
Yeah. Imagine at 2 o'clock in the morning, you look outside and you see that while the police are beating on your door telling you have to leave now. So our hearts and prayers and all of our support go out to those folks out there in California. It's an awful scene, and we'll have more on that coming up. But let's head back out to California, to Gordon West, and see what's going on with short shots.
All right. Well, thanks, Don. And yes, it's been just horrible, both down here as well as up in the Bay Area and Northern California. Just terrible. So, Victor, if you don't mind, let's go ahead and roll some short shots, and we'll take a look. First of all, the smoke has been traveling all up and down Southern California, and anybody that is in the area is certainly going to see a ton of smoke like we see here. The problem was there was just not enough firefighters to put out the houses, and once a house really got started, unfortunately, there was nothing they could do. But they certainly tried their best. The ham operation was hampered by repeaters getting burned up and going off the air, but the hams, they persevered, and we'll tell you how they did that. But after the fire tore through many areas, this is all that we would see standing, and it was just a shame. Well, down here in Southern California, we're far enough south of Los Angeles that while we got a lot of smoke, there were still a lot of embers around, so they dispatched our FireWatch. And FireWatch is made up of ham radio operators as well as CERT members, as well as volunteers serving the Orange County area through OC Parks and the Irvine Ranch Conservancy. And we will go up to mountaintops and survey and look for any potential fire. We had the latest, of course, of the ham radio gear, but we were soon to discover with the high winds down here in the 30s and 40s that at times our radios didn't work very well. And no matter what radio we had, even with the manufacturer's stock microphone, we just weren't getting through. And those radios that had other manufacturer low-cost microphones, they even had problems as well. And what we found out was, of course, wind noise. And not only did the hams have problems with wind noise coming over their radios, but take a listen to this. This is unbelievable.
Your main objective or issue may be up in Portola. Your structures look good. I'm between.
No idea what he said. So they ask again.
Battalion 7, sorry, you were unreadable. Can you repeat? Sound like you have a lot of wind in the background. Your main threat is not the structure, but the fire jumping Portola Parkway.
So you can see that wind noise is a huge problem to not only ham radio handhelds, but even the fire department radio system as well. And we've known this problem for years, and that is if you send out to do a public service event, many times your radio working just fine is picking up nothing but crowd noise. And on a scope, you could actually see the crowd noise on an external low-cost headset. And as soon as they went back to the radio's stock microphone, wow, as you can see on the right, it got much better on reception. So on a windless day, the stock microphones are fine. And on a windless day, there was Tracy, and Tracy was making contacts off the loop. And in fact, next week, we're going to tell you all about our loop exercise for that Thursday, a week from this Thursday, Thanksgiving. So, if you don't have wind, you're in good shape. But any type of headsets in a large crowd or any type of headset where wind could come across it is going to be a problem. But there is a solution. And first of all, on the inexpensive little radios, that little tiny dot you see on the left-hand side, that's the microphone element. And the wind just whistles through it, obscuring your voice. Well, there it is, the wind stop. Not a wind sock, but the wind stop. And the wind stop for outside use, especially when we do Quartz Fest in January, is absolutely essential. And there's one of our original Quartz Fest organizers, Dave, K1 Alpha November. You can see he's got a wind stop around his high element. And Randy, yep, we found out that unless you had the black little fuzzy wind stop, the noise would simply be too much. And there's Russell. Russell is our Hootenanny director, and he, too, has a windsock. And that little windsock is not going to occlude your voice. It's going to take the out of the problem of too much wind. Even working on projects with a microphone, we found out that a simple little black or orange or whatever color windsock will work. And for portable operations, same deal. The little wind stopping little rubber will make all the difference in the world. Well, it's actually foam rubber. And Bob says he's got a very special one on his setup. So if you're planning on doing any type of ARES work, before you plug in your microphone, make sure that you've got on the mic element itself that little wind stop. And by the way, on the Yaesu FT60 radio, double check that when you plug in the mic and speaker microphone setup, you make sure it's well seated and that you anchor the cord, because as we found out a couple days ago up on the fire scene, if it wiggles slightly loose, it puts the radio on constant transmit. And that's no good. Now, I'm very happy to say we used the heck out of the ICOM D-Star, and this radio performed flawlessly with the ICOM speaker mic. And you put that jack in to receive the plug, and it works great. And the Heil HTH K for Kenwood, I for ICOM, and Y for Yaesu, these are terrific headsets. And again, as Bob says, that's a very special little foam around the microphone element to keep the wind noise out. We gave it all sorts of tests. There's Susie giving it the test, and wind would not affect the transmission. Also, we found out that those that are using the Pro 7, the big Heil headsets on the ICOM transceiver, as long as the transceiver you have has a monitor function, it's going to be great. But if it's not, it's a little tough to talk when you can't hear your own voice feeding back on purpose into your headset. And we found that when we're doing some of our FireWatch comms, oh my gosh, someone borrowed my wind stock, so I made up my own, and it made all the difference in the world. So make sure you've got something covering the mic that's going to keep the wind from blasting you off the air. One final thing, and that is here in Southern California, they're trying to trace why the fires got started. And there's a lot of Southern California Edison lines all over the place, and they're seeing if maybe there was arcing. And did you know that when a power line arcs within a mile or two of you, it's an AM spark that is throughout the 2-meter band. Here we can see 4 megahertz of the 2-meter band, and that's what an arcing power line looks like. Now, the problem is it's not going to break squelch because your 2-meter radio is FM, and this arcing, power line arcing would be AM, but you will see it on the S meter. So you've all known that repeaters get noisy and the band gets noisy when it's foggy. The insulators begin to break down on the power thing. You know that some of the new LED bulbs raise 1 or 2 S units. You go, I screwed in the bulb and everything sounds okay, but I've got like 2 S units of noise. Well, you can imagine what a big spark will do, creating noise. So if you're on the 2-meter band, and you normally see this anywhere from 140 to 160, and all of a sudden you see your S meter just jump up and then come back down, time to start looking around, especially at night, to see if you see any sparking lines. So keep an eye on your S meter. And while it won't break squelch, many times it's a good indication. So our very best thoughts go out to the fire personnel and to the many ham radio operators, and you're going to hear from some of them tonight with some of the interviews that Amanda has. But it's just been devastating out here in Southern California. And finally today, they dropped the red flag warning. So my own personal FireWatch, along with about 50 other hams that are part of the FireWatch network, we're going to get a day or two of rest. So that's the story here. So, Don, let's go over to you and find out what's happening with DX Engineering. Don?
Thank you, Gordon, and thank you for your help with all the fire communications. And please pass along our heartfelt thanks to all of your fellow operators out there. It's just amazing. And that picture you showed with the smoke and everything in the background, I saw a picture the other day that actually showed, I think it was radar track, of that smoke, Southern California smoke, going all the way across the U.S. and up into the northeast United States. So it's traveling coast to coast right now. Just an amazing amount of smoke in the air. Just our hearts go out to those folks out there. So thank you, Gordon. Appreciate that. All right, let's talk about DX Engineering. And one of the things about DX Engineering that is so great is that they're constantly on the lookout for innovations to help hams work smarter and get more enjoyment out of the hobby. And I always say, work smart, don't work hard. And that's exactly what DX Engineering helps you do. Here are 3 new products that you're going to want to check out. DX Engineering's RX Share audio switch for multi and single operator contesting and DXing. This gives operators complete control over the exact audio feed into their stereo headsets. The RX Share enables each operator to control a 3-position switch so they can listen to one, the other, or both channels of audio while operating 1 or 2 shared radios. For example, the device lets one operator hear when a new station is ready to be worked or when the other operator is going to work them. Then for DXing, an operator can listen to 2 radios on 2 different bands or 2 different pile-ups or 1 pile-up and your roundtable net frequency, you name it. It delivers the ultimate in receiving flexibility. And that's just a very small part of what the RX Share can do. You can read more about that at dxengineering.com. And DX Engineering now offers color-coded ferrite RF noise reduction kits made from specific mixes of ferrite to block and dissipate RF currents. The kit contains toroids and snap-on beads for specific RF suppression applications, including linear amplifiers, AM broadcast bands, and generators. They also come in packages for use in a variety of applications. And DX Engineering has placed color-coded stripes on their ferrite products so users can tell a toroid made from 31 mix from one made from 77 mix at a glance. Makes that real easy for you. And from Rig Expert, the AA55 Zoom analyzer with Bluetooth capabilities. This is a 60 kilohertz to 55 megahertz analyzer. It's a powerful tool for testing, checking, tuning, or repairing antennas and antenna feed lines. Has a 3.2-inch color TFT display to show SWR, impedance, return loss, and a whole lot more. And the Bluetooth wireless technology lets it work in conjunction with a smartphone, a tablet, or a laptop. And now you can operate the analyzer remotely, see the characteristics of your antenna in more detail, and share measurements results on social networks. Pretty cool stuff. And DX Engineering ships faster than anybody else in the industry. If you get your order in, most orders placed by 10 p.m. Eastern Time. They're shipped the same day with proven products and expert advice. DX Engineering is helping you shrink the globe. Request your catalog or shop online 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at dxengineering.com/hamnation. Good folks over there. George knows all about DX Engineering. He knows how good they are. He gives their stuff away all the time on his questions. Right, George?
Yes, I do. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be giving away a little bit of DX Engineering stuff here in just a moment. You knew that, Don. That. Unfortunately,
I knew that.
I'm not giving it to you, though. That's
well, it's a day like many others, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I mentioned at the first of the show here that I had a new piece of test equipment I was real excited about and wanted to show you about tonight. This is something that a transmitter manufacturer brought to my attention recently. I had seen one before. I've got a friend who has one, but I've never used one. And I finally broke down and bought one for myself here. This is a FLIR 1 Generation 3. It's a camera, basically. You can hook it to your cell phone, either iOS or Android. This one is for the Android. It's got the USB-C port on it. So I just plug it right here on the back or the bottom of my cell phone. And now I've got a infrared camera here that I can do heat maps of things around the transmitter site. It's a thermography camera. That's another name for it. There's on the website right there. You can find this this particular model for around $200, and for that price, boy, it really works well. Now they make really expensive models going up into the tens of thousands of dollars for specialized purposes, but for my work around the transmitter site, boy, this was just the thing right here. Let's take a look at my first experience with it. I'm back out at the same transmitter site I was at last week, and we're going to do a little thermography here to see how things are operating and what the normal heat maps should look like. The first thing we're going to look at is a transformer here that converts the incoming Delta 3-phase service into a Y connection. And we can see right away there seems to be a hot spot up there in the top of it. That's a cutaway vent to let heat escape. Let's go in a little bit closer and see what that is. Now we can see that's where the wires come into and leave the transformer. It's under 120 degrees Fahrenheit there. I believe that's okay. But it does really look frightening on first glance here in thermography. Let's take a look now at the main fused disconnect for the incoming utility. Because this device can only measure surface temperature, that fuse box doesn't look hot. But if we take a look inside, we can find some hot spots. Looking at the three fuses, they all are about the same temperature, just over 100 degrees, which should be typical. And this means that we're drawing about the same current on each line as well. We'll want to look above to the connections there and make sure there's no hot spots there, and there's not. If we look down below, though, we see one leg is a little warmer than the rest. Of course, it is right next to all the wires that are going down into the transformer, so that's not to be unexpected. But these are points of interest that we'd want to check on and make sure they're not too hot. Now, right down where the wires go into the transformer, yeah, still less than 110 degrees there. There's two transmitters at this site, a main and a backup, so there is a fuse box for each of those. Let's look inside the fuse box for the main transmitter. We can see just a little bit of heat at the incoming conduit to the box. Not much, though, but we really can't tell much from the outside. So let's open it up and have a look inside. The three fuses look about the same heat, and they all measure just under 110 degrees, so that means we got a good balance on the three phases from our transmitter. If we look at the terminals above those fuses, they all seem within reason too, a little less heat than the fuses themselves. And the terminals at the bottom of the fuses there, that's something you certainly want to keep a check on because those could get loose. In this case, they all look just fine. There's another fuse box on the wall that handles all the single-phase circuits, covers the air conditioning, and the various smaller pieces of gear in the rack. A look inside. Oh, I've got a hot spot myself, don't I? Well, we can see the main breaker up there for this panel. It's got a little bit of heat to it, not much. The smaller breakers below that are all relatively cool. There is one breaker over to the left bottom there that's got some heat to it. That is the air conditioner breaker. The air conditioner's not on at the moment. It was running a little earlier, though. The transmitter itself, there's the conduit coming in. Of course, that's a fluorescent tube across the top there. Conduit comes in, and the first thing it hits there is the main breaker for the transmitter. Not very warm. There's a row of breakers across here. The one on the right's a little warmer than the rest, and that makes sense. That is the plate supply breaker. Then we've got some fuses down here, and it's kind of interesting. One is a little warmer than the rest. That is a filament fuse. Here's the other filament fuse. It's not quite as warm, so that's strange that there is a little change there, and maybe something I need to look into. The center panel of the transmitter really doesn't have any heat generating components in it. And then there's the business end of the transmitter, the PA tube. There's a little heat there. You can probably guess where the tube is located in that cavity, right near the bottom there. It's a lot warmer behind that door, but we're not going to open it up and try to look inside while it's on. If we look up above, we can see where the heat leaves the transmitter. That gets pretty warm up in there. That's closer to 150 or 160 degrees. Then the ductwork that exhausts the heat outside the building. What's kind of surprising there is back there on the rear wall where there's caulking around that exhaust pipe. That's actually warmer than the pipe itself. And I'm not sure, maybe it's because that pipe is metal that it won't show as high a temperature, or maybe because the air conditioner blows on it, it cools it off. Now let's look on the top of the transmitter. We can see the transmission line going up a vertical run there to an elbow. Of course, that's a fluorescent tube, the bright thing across the ceiling up there. The elbow itself doesn't look warm, but if we follow that transmission line on along, of course, another light, there's a flange connector right there. We can see a little heat is built up there. And then the remainder of the transmission line that runs on from there to the RF switch has a little higher heat map than the earlier part of the transmission line. Of course, the air conditioner doesn't directly blow on this either, so that might let it build up a little heat. There's the RF switch below there. And we're not really hot, just a little warmer than ambient. Now, if we look over here, this is an elbow going out through the wall to the transmission line going up the tower. Now, there's some heat there. Still not enough to be concerned with, but just kind of interesting how you have different heats at different points along the transmission line. Let's go outside, find the transmission line out here. We can follow it on over to the tower, and that is rigid line coming out of the transmitter building. And then there's a connector here where it changes to heliax. We definitely want to check that to make sure there's no heat rise there. And there's not. Let's look at the tower itself. This is interesting. I would not have expected the bottom section of the tower, where it comes to a point there, to be warmer than the rest of the tower. If we look up the tower, that's interesting. Those plates where all the cross members and the different sections are joined together, they're a little hotter than the rest of the tower. And you can see the guy wires up there. They're a little bit cooler. So this is a really interesting look at some of the things in the world that you wouldn't normally see. You know, when I first looked in the top of that transformer there, it looked like those wires were on fire, but really, you know, that thing is constantly adjusting itself for the relative temperature of everything that's in that shot. So it really wasn't that hot. I don't remember what it was now, but we saw the temperature there. But it was a little hotter than everything else around it, and that's why it stood out. So for doing work on high-power equipment, for looking at your your electrical utilities in the house. Boy, this is a really handy tool there, and I think I'm going to get a lot of good work out of it in the future, because think of how much time it's going to save you if you can find maybe a loose connection or something that's heating up in advance. You can head it off before it's a major issue. So that's a piece of test equipment that I've been so excited about. And I knew about them, but until I actually got my hands on one and got to look around one of my own facilities there, I didn't realize just how helpful that would be. Well, I do want to mention I've got a project I've been working on here, and this is it using an Arduino Uno and a couple of relays and some various other components, a little add-on module there. We're going to be doing the next Amateur Logic Friday night, and I'm going to talk about this and show you what it is and how it works. It is radio related. So join us Friday night at 8, live.amateurlogic.tv if you're looking for something to do, and we'll tell you all about that. I've got some stuff to give away here. As Don mentioned a little earlier, the first thing, we want to talk about is last week's question. And I had planned on showing you this last week. That's why we had this particular question, but it worked out good anyway. I wanted to know if a screw was a little loose on a terminal in a fuse box, would its temperature increase or decrease? Well, we got an answer from Steve Kurtzman, K7SJK, and he said the temperature would increase. And then he put in parentheses, if that circuit is carrying a load. And that's true. If there's no load on it, it's not going to be any heat generated there. So congratulations, Steve. DX Engineering is going to be sending you one of their canvas tote bags here. We've looked at these before. The heavy-duty canvas, great for carrying coax or anything you need to carry to your next ham radio adventure. Real rugged. This is not a lightweight Walmart shopper's bag here for sure. This is the real thing. Thanks, DX Engineering, for making that available. For next week, I have another question here. And what I want to know, what type of connector is this? If you can see it, well, almost lost it. That's it right there. Just a little connector, plugs in a terminal here. I want to know what the name of that connector is. And of course, this is a dual terminal here, but what's the name of that connector, and what other connector is said to be the shielded version of this particular connector? If you think you know the answer to that, send it to me, hamnationcontest@gmail.com, and you could win one of these MFJ 113 giant LED clocks. It gives a 12 or 24-hour display, and it's got a built-in alarm as well. You can see this across the shack without your glasses on. It's a very, very nice clock there. And, just answer that question for me. Tell me what kind of connector that was, and what do they say is the shielded version of that connector? hamnationcontest@gmail.com. We'll be back in just a moment. I'm going to tell you about another giveaway here. But first, let's get a message from ICOM.
For the love of the holidays, surprise your favorite ham this season with the gift that's on their hot list. The holidays are just around the corner, and ICOM has plenty of cheer for everyone. IC7610, the SDR every ham wants, and just in time for the holidays. This high-performance SDR has the ability to pick out the faintest signals, even in the presence of stronger adjacent signals. The ICOM IC7610 is a direct sampling software-defined radio that will change the world's definition of a SDR. RF direct sampling system, 110 RMDR, independent dual receivers, and dual digicell. IC7300, changing the way entry-level HF is designed. This high-performance, innovative HF transceiver with a compact design will far exceed your expectations. RF direct sampling, 15 discrete bandpass filters, large 4.3-inch color touchscreen, real-time spectrum scope, and SD memory card slot. ICR30. Raise the bar on DC to daylight receivers. Powerful yet easy to use, the ICR30 is packed full of features you've come to expect from ICOM. Built-in GPS and Bluetooth, dual bandwidth recording, high-speed scan, and there's an Android and iOS app available. The perfect stocking stuffer, the ID51A Plus 2 provides new modes for extended D-Star coverage. Enjoy integrated GPS, independent AM/FM receiver, and free Android apps. Terminal and access point mode, send and receive text messages and pictures. DV fast data mode, and easy FM repeater setting. Visit ICOMAmerica.com/amateur for more information on all the great ICOM radios.
And you can tune in and enter to win after each episode of Ham Nation. Go to ICOMAmerica.com/HamNation and register for their weekly giveaway of swag prizes, and you'll be entered into the monthly grand prize drawing for a new radio. And for November, that new radio is going to be the ID4100A entry-level D-Star mobile with big rig features. It's a dual-band D-Star and analog transceiver, one band at a time. It has an upgraded user-friendly interface, built-in GPS, micro SD card slot for voice and data storage, and there's an optional Bluetooth board and downloadable apps for iOS and Android. So go to ICOMAmerica.com/HamNation after this in each episode of Ham Nation and register to win. Sign up, good luck, and don't forget to follow ICOM America Inc. on Facebook and Twitter. And by the way, that ID4100A is the same D-Star rig I use here in the shack, and boy, I really like it. It's much easier to operate than some of the early versions of D-Star radios. They've really improved the interface a lot, in my opinion. Makes it a lot simpler to operate. And we want to know what you've been working on. Show us your project. Randy is collecting photos, no videos, but photos of projects that you're working on. We want to know what you've been building, soldering, wrenching, drilling, whatever. Send your photos to Randy, K7AGE at Outlook.com, and when he gets enough here, he's going to put together a video and have a segment of Show Us Your Project. We'd like to know. And now it's time to bring Don back. I don't know. What are you doing now, Don, usually at this point of the show?
You mean on camera?
Off camera.
Probably shouldn't talk about that.
Okay, never mind.
But I could use that thermography deal. That's fascinating. Yeah. That's absolutely fast. I love watching stuff like that on YouTube. Thermography and super slow-mo and things like that. It's just stuff that you can't see with the naked eye. To me, is just completely and totally fascinating. So very good stuff. Good stuff. In fact, next time we're at a Ham Fest together, I want you to bring that with you and see if you can get a picture of my manliness, because I bet it would just peg it right off the scale.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's designed to handle that, Don. I don't know that the scale will go that high.
Well, you might have to get that high dollar unit.
Yeah. Maybe I could use some filters, maybe, shoot it through a piece of cardboard or something. Anyway, what's up, Don?
like an eclipse, so you don't burn your eyeballs. See?
Yeah. Piece of smoked glass. Always
thinking. There is no off button on the Genius machine. Hey, let's get a word from Amateur Radio Newsline and see what's going on in the world of amateur radio news, shall we? From Amateur Radio Newsline Report, number 2141. These are the Ham Nation headlines for Wednesday, November 14th, 2018. First up this week, an update on a recent story about the prospect of an unmanned international space station. That's not going to happen after all. Newsline anchor Stephen Kinford, N8WB.
Russian space officials announced this month that 3 new crew members are scheduled to launch on December 3rd atop a Soyuz rocket, bringing cosmonaut Oleg Kononenko, RN-3DX, NASA's Anne McClain, and Canada's David St. Jacques, KG-5 FYI, to the space station. Concerns were raised on October about the immediate future of having a crew aboard the ISS and amateur radio on the International Space Station after launch issues with the Soyuz spacecraft on October 11th forced an emergency landing in Kazakhstan. The present crew members on board the ISS are scheduled to return to Earth next month. ARISS is waiting on further developments.
The FCC is retiring its present version of the Commission Registration System, also known as CORS. Again, Stephen Kinford.
As of March 1st of next year, anyone applying for an FCC Federal Registration Number, or FRN, must first create a username and password on the system before they can receive the FRN itself. And that's already the case, but on the new CORS website, anyone who already has an FRN from the old Commission Registration System will need to create a username to continue managing it under the new system. You can find the website using the URL included in the text version of this report. This is especially important for volunteer examiners while administering amateur radio license exams. FRNs are used in place of Social Security numbers. An FRN is required for everyone using this system. All hams who are already licensed and wishing to conduct business with the FCC, such as renewing their license or changing their address, also need to be registered properly through the new Commission Registration System, so they have access to the online universal licensing system. It should also be noted that individuals with a new FRN will be able to log into the FCC's universal licensing system and set their preferences from receiving electronic copies of their documents to getting them on paper by postal mail if desired.
Finally this week, we all know that getting on the air without a license is not legal. That's true even for the local traffic cops.
Hams are not the only ones who can get in trouble for not having an appropriate and valid FCC license. Take the case of the Buckeye Lake Police Department in Ohio. Village officers have been writing speeding tickets, as police are known to do, for any motorist driving in excess of the 35-mile-per-hour village limit. But apparently, every ticket that's been handed out since 2013 has been unlawful, according to Buckeye Lake Police Chief Vicki Wardlow. The chief told the village council members at a meeting in October that the department's license with the FCC expired in 2013, which means the radar guns used to measure the speed of motorists whizzing by cannot be calibrated for use. No one applied to renew the license, so the tickets issued in the past 5 years simply aren't valid, she said. She told the council that the law requires the department to have that license in order to operate both its radar units and its radios. That means the department cannot write valid tickets, at least for now. A new license could cost anywhere from $840 if she files the application herself, or a total of $1,400 if the village outsources the process, and that license would not expire for another 10 years. It was unclear what penalty, if any, would be assessed for the department's 5 years of unlicensed operation. The village's clerk-treasurer, Rochelle Meningen, said the police department's budget has the funds to cover the cost of a new license, and so, presumably, it will apply as quickly as possible for its FCC license, but of course, at a speed within the legal limits. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Andy Morrison, K9AWM.
And that's all from the Amateur Radio Newsline, your independent source for amateur radio news for 4 decades and counting at arnewsline.org. With Stephen Kinford, N8WB, Andy Morrison, K9AWM, Karen Eve Murray, KD2GUT at the news desk in New York, and our news team across the globe. I'm Don Wilbanks, AE5DW. 7-3. We'll see you next time here on Ham Nation. All right, good stuff from the Newsline crew. And as you can expect, we have no solar update tonight from Tabitha Scove because, well, she's been a little bit busy with the fires over there in her neighborhood. But, of course, you need to make sure you follow her on Twitter. There's her Twitter feed right there. Anyway, you can't see it because it's on my phone and the camera. But just follow her on Twitter, at Tabitha Scove, TAMITHASKOV. You know how to spell that, at Tabitha Scove on Twitter. And there you go, right there. There's her website, spaceweatherwoman.com. And when she posts stuff, you'll be the first to know about it. Want to talk to you about Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Why, you ask? Well, because you're going to want to put an antenna up, and you're going to want some space to put an antenna up, and, well, a yard seems to be pretty good space to put an antenna up. Let's talk about buying a home for a minute so you can get your yard. Because of the rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days, and it can be the cause of a lot of anxiety with people. And that's why the friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about that. And they're calling it the power buying process, and it's really pretty simple. Step 1, answer a few simple questions. They'll check your credit for pre-qualified approval. Step 2, Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval, which will give you the strength of a cash buyer. And once you're verified, step 3, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they'll lock up your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. And the best part is, if the rates go up, your rates stay the same. But if the rates go down, your rate also drops. So either way, you win. It's the kind of thinking you would expect from America's largest mortgage lender, isn't it? Mm-hmm. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/hamnation. Rate Shield approval is only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states. NMLS, consumeraccess.org, number 3030. That's rocketmortgage.com/hamnation. rocketmortgage.com/hamnation. And we thank Rocket Mortgage for their support of Ham Nation. All right, Amanda has a guest to talk about the California fires. Amanda, it's all yours.
Well, thank you very much. We do have an important guest tonight. We have the Section Emergency Coordinator of the Sacramento Valley. That's Greg, KG6SJT. Sorry, Greg, I almost forgot your call sign there, but thanks for joining us tonight.
That's okay. Yes, good evening.
First of all, let's talk about a couple of things. Tell us, how is the Paradise Fire going right now? In case any of our viewers don't know what's happening there right now, go ahead and give us kind of the rundown.
Okay, well, for the Paradise, that was a complete disaster up there. The fire was rushing so fast. It started on last Thursday morning, about 1,000 acres. And by that evening, it's grown to 20,000 acres. And this is in mountainous area with lots of trees and brush. Because we had high winds, gusts up to 50 miles an hour. It just zoomed. The town of Paradise was mostly destroyed. And there were 25,000 people. Well, I think the town had 25,000 people, or 27,000, excuse me. And it's nearly totally destroyed. They're doing search and rescue now, looking for bodies, and it's going up it's gone up twice today. Currently, 56 people have lost their lives in this fire.
Mm. That's
a lot of
terrible.
Elderly, retired people live there.
So, if I know correctly, there's about 6,750 homes destroyed and about 230 commercial or business properties. Is that correct?
The latest update I got just a few minutes ago was there were 10,321 structures destroyed, which includes 8,650 homes. And there's still 15,000 still being threatened by the blaze.
Okay, so horrible numbers there. First of all, I don't. This is the most destructive wildfire in California. First of all, not to mention most of the U.S. minus maybe the Chicago fire back in the 1800s. Anyhow, let's move on. So what is Aries doing right now, or what have they done? They've been supporting some shelters, and you've got some operators there. Go ahead and tell us about that.
Well, that's correct. We have a good working relationship with the Gold Coast Region Red Cross, which is located centrally in Sacramento, California. They call us out when they open Red Cross shelters. Even if their communications initially, they're concerned that if the communications go down, which they did, they need to have operators there. You can't call for them if they're not around. So we ended up supporting, in the end, 5 shelters, and they were up from Chico all the way down to Gridley, and as far east as Plumas County. The operation involved about 20 operators, and we were staffing them anywhere from 12 to 24 hours a day. Let's see what else I can tell you about it. Anyway, we actually got released last night about 7 o'clock. The communications infrastructure, the cell phones are stabilized now. They did go out for a while, but now they're working fine. So they said, we don't need you, but don't go far. You're on standby.
That's absolutely correct. And why don't we talk about some of the traffic that you passed? You were basically going from shelters to the Red Cross chapter to tell them how many people were there, how many meals they needed. Is that the kind of traffic you were passing?
That's correct. We were passing shelter counts and tactical messages from the shelters to Red Cross. If they had questions, I know in one case there was a question. They had an EMT that had a license, but he hadn't had registered with Red Cross, so they had to get that clarified. So that went back and forth. Some of that was on voice. Well, actually, all the stations had voice, but then most of the stations had WinLink, which is we found to be the go-to method for communications of these wildfires. It worked extremely well during the car fire this summer. And using the WinLink, we can use the forms that are built into the system to send shelter counts and ICS 213 forms, putting together ICS 205, the communication channels and plan, and sending all of that back to Red Cross to be shared with the other shelters and people that need to know that.
Absolutely. And I think WinLink is a great resource. And first of all, it's because it is kind of a digital mode that you get the information accurate. There's no second guessing how many people are there. There's no second guessing the needs. Was it 23 cots? Was it 33 cots? It all comes over digitally in a form with a request. And it's much more accurate. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Because I work with the WinLink group helping develop forms, I had seen some of the messages from Puerto Rico. And in one case, it was a list of medications. It must have been 30 of them or 40 on a page. And if you had to pass those by voice, it would take about maybe a week. They were, long words, long, and a lot of spelling would be involved. And sometimes just a few letters could make a difference.
Oh, agreed. And especially coming out of Puerto Rico with the Spanish translations, I can imagine how hard that would be. But let's move on here. We have a couple of other things to talk about. First of all, we have some photos to show the audience as well, but this was really destructive. Not only that, but you had some people working in those shelters that actually lost their homes themselves. This guy right here, I think it's the guy on the right. He lost his home and went right to a shelter to help. Is that correct?
That's correct. The fellow on the left, and I just blanked out on his name. But yes, he was. His family lost their home.
And it's so devastating. You're called to work even though you lost your home. And this is kind of their portable setup there for Sacramento Valley and some of the other.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
One group took that up, and initially they were outside because Red Cross didn't have a place to put them. But they remedied that quickly because it was very smoky outside.
Yeah, I can't even imagine that working. This is John. I became friends with him on Facebook. The John also KM6ICQ is his call sign. He lost his house and he volunteers for an animal rescue group, and he didn't even skip a beat. He lost his home, took his 3 dogs, and went to go help out all the other animals out there that were lost and waiting to find their owners who either A, had left home for the day and couldn't get back home to go get their pets. And this is what he's been doing. And this poor cat, anyhow, he's been doing some serious work. He has a GoFundMe site, but I won't put that out here. But he's been doing some hard work himself. And then just the other pictures, you can just see this is one of the shelters getting all of these donations, and you can see the outside picture where there's just so much going on. I've never seen such a devastating fire in my life. I've worked a lot of fires here in Colorado, and I've seen some distraught people at shelters, but this is beyond belief, honestly, to see that this town has just been completely destroyed. So,
as of this evening, there are 1,385 people in shelters.
And how many shelters are still open?
I think there are 5 Red Cross shelters, but there are multiple ones being hosted by churches and smaller entities that are not registering with the Red Cross, but they're offering sheltering.
Okay, and I gave Victor a link. I know, Victor, you're going through pictures for me here, but this is a really interesting link from CAL FIRE. And on it, if you scroll into that, Victor, look at that. I mean, there's just a sea of red. But once you get into where you can see the icons of houses, all you have to do is click on one of those homes. And then you can see if you click on it, then you can click on the image and it will show you the destruction of the home. So CAL FIRE does an amazing job at this. And this is really heartbreaking, by the way. This is what's left of this person's home. And they have this document online for everyone to go out and check out. And I just can't imagine finding out that your home is lost by this. But it is a great tool, but devastating at the same time. Don't you think, Greg?
Oh, absolutely, yes. Excuse me. Yeah, when they posted that, I posted it on our website, which is www.sacvalleyAries.org, and also the section Facebook and Twitter pages, because it really helps. And you can to find out what happened. And if you know people up there, you can put in an address and it'll show you where it's at. And it comes in handy. Also, we did do some reunification, or at least finding people during this event. We had a ham contacted me. He was trying to find somebody, but he didn't have a computer. And I was able to search the fellow's name on the Red Cross Safe and Well website. And we found out that he was staying in a hotel. And then Red Cross at the radio station also helped reunite 2 people. One fellow, he was calling in. Somebody called with an HT. It was, I think, his wife. She couldn't get to him. He couldn't hear her. So Red Cross relayed that and told her not to come up because it was up to Paradise. And there was another one as well. So
it just, the devastation. I think all of us viewers here just overwhelmed by it. I know Southern California is going through the same thing. I don't think so much as Northern California right now, but really, I really appreciate, Greg, all the information. And I know your ops are just spread far and few between there, and you work out of a really kind of rural area. So finding your operators in the first place are hard to come by. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, we have 20 counties in our section, but many of them are small, with just a few thousand people. The areas groups for a given county, if they have 15 people, they're lucky. So we rely a lot on mutual assistance, where one county gets involved and then neighboring counties come in to help out. They ask for that assistance, and that works well. So that's why we encourage people to, besides training all the time, get to know all your neighboring counties, become familiar with the people and how they work, because you're going to be called out. I mean, during the fire this summer, we had people driving 5.5 hours to help out because there were no operators up in the northern part of the state.
Absolutely. I live with the same thing here in Colorado. It's just how it is. We live in rural areas and we don't have that many hams, and definitely not ones that have volunteered to be part of ARES or trained. So it's hard to find the ones that you want to trust to put in those positions. So I understand completely. Before we wrap it up here, is there anything else you want to tell us about what's going on there or how things are going?
Well, they're going for us. They're going better because all the ARES operators were released last night. I may have mentioned because the telecoms and cells are all working, and Red Cross is more comfortable with that. They know how to use their cell phones and fax machines, but they want us to be right on nearby in case they're needed. So that's it. I would say all ARES groups should be reaching out to their neighboring counties, get to know them, train, and ideally everybody gets at least familiar with WinLink. WinLink was our go-to tool that gave us the best results, and even people that don't have a terminal node connector or TNC, once they get started, they can do it over Telnet, which is just using the internet, but at least they know how the program functions. So if they're assigned to a shelter, they would know which buttons to push when it is hooked to a radio.
Agreed, my friend. It's all about training and learning all of this stuff before you're thrown into the situation. So, Greg, I'd like to really thank you for joining us tonight. Stick around. You don't have to hang up right away. You can hang out for the rest of it. And we really appreciate you being here. And for all the hams that lost their homes in Paradise, California this last week, we're all very sad here at Ham Nation. George, Don, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I wanted to make just an observation. Looking at that map, the interactive map where you could zoom in and actually click on a red dot and see the house as to whether or not it's there. What struck me, it's the one thing about that is that if you're evacuated and you have access to the internet and you're looking at that, it gives you instant closure and information that, okay, my house is gone. I can start to go forward because I know the house is gone. From personal experience, when we were evacuated for Hurricane Katrina sitting up in Little Rock, Arkansas, that didn't exist in 2005. That technology didn't exist. I sat on an old laptop for days and days and days scouring the internet for any type of aerial or satellite picture that I could try to zoom in on and get some grainy image as to whether or not my house had been flooded or was underwater or was still there or if the roof was gone or whatever. And so to have that ability to actually look and see, okay, my house is still there. That's a relief. Or, okay, my house is gone. Let's get on the phone to the insurance company and get that started. Because the 2 weeks that we were in Little Rock, we had none of that. And so just to have that technology now, yeah, it's a double-edged sword because you don't know what you're going to find, but at least you're going to find something. So that's something. And Greg, man, you've got my just all of you guys up there dealing with that. Just have my utmost respect and admiration. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Go ahead, Greg.
George.
No. If, like I say, we posted a lot of links. There's some other cool things you can see. I just found a drone video that flew over Paradise, and it's really depressing. There's just a small building here, maybe a building there, and not much else.
It is the devastation. It seems like every time one of these happens, we say, this can't happen anymore. This is going to be the worst that it's ever going to be. And Mother Nature says, hold my beer.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
I'm actually kind of tired of doing these interviews, honestly. And Don kind of got me all weepy-eyed about that. You just want to know. So
at least it gives you closure. I mean, you have information that we didn't have for Katrina sitting up there, looking at grainy little pictures from satellites or flyovers or whatever. At least you have an actual picture on your property as to whether or not your stuff is still there or not. And that's, it's a double-edged sword, but man, it's a godsend too. Just that information, just knowing you can move forward from that.
Agreed. And okay, Greg. Well, thank you so much for being on here tonight. I know we got to move on the show here tonight, but it's really.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for everything all your guys and gals are doing up there. Just a couple of announcements for tonight. I have W0RLM Richard. He's really into the Skywarn Recognition Day. Thanks, Richard, for doing this. He's going to be hosting a net on 14 Charlie during that weekend, and he wanted everyone to know to look for N0 NWS. Make sure you work them with your National Weather Service call sign if you're going to be out and about. He's going to be there pretty much all of the day Saturday and some of the evening on Friday evening as well. Excuse me. And other than that, I didn't catch a lot of questions tonight. I did have one for Gordo. We'll save that for next week. So let's go over some of the nets we're going to have tonight. Steve, W7UDI, is going to be back on. He's going to be on 80 meters, and I'm going to guess he's going to be around 3908. And on 40, let's look around 7192. And D-Star, we're going to have 14 Charlie, DMR, TAC 311, and on Echolink, we're going to have the Dewdrop in. So please join us there. So very great show tonight. Again, my heart goes out to California, both in Southern California and Northern California. The devastation has been great and quick. I look forward. I'm going to have a guest next week talking about where he's been listening to all of the scanner radio traffic and putting that out on Twitter so that normal people who have no idea what's going on and they're just going through the area or they live in the area, he does the correct hashtags and teaches everyone how to get this information and how to evacuate the quickest possible or where they can send help. So, and he's also a ham radio operator. His name is Ben 8I6YR. So I look forward to having him next week. You guys are going to learn a lot from him. So back to you, Don. You're going to be wrapping this up.
Thank you much. Steve says 3908 is the frequency in the chat room for where he's going to be tonight. So very good. We've had a great show tonight. Man, just a lot of information about the California wildfires, probably more stuff than we think we ought to know, but knowledge is power, and this very informative show. Good stuff from Gordon earlier, and Amanda, your interviewing skills just never cease to amaze me. For someone who wasn't doing this before you're doing this, I'm in awe, and I've been in radio for 40 years, and I am no interviewer. Certainly not to your level.
Just call me Barbara Walters. We'll call it good.
Oh, you're prettier than she is. But I'm prettier than she is. Did I say that out loud? But you did. I just appreciate you so much, Amanda. And
thank you.
We appreciate George up there in Mississippi too. George, any final words for us tonight?
Well, just if you're looking for something to do Friday night, join us at live.amateurlogic.tv, and I'll show you what that project is I've been working on. And next week here on Ham Nation, if we can pull it off, we're going to try to produce a heat map of Don's manliness.
Oh, boy.
I can't tell you enough how Jeff was running around saying, "Shut up and take my money" on that FLIR thing to add to your phone.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He needs one.
He's right here.
Yeah.
He's like,
Oh, yeah.
Yep. He's like,
exactly.
Yes, amen.
Yeah.
I want one
for
of
a
those.
firefighter. I mean, for a firefighter looking for hot spots, that is invaluable.
Yes, it totally is. And he's always so ever since we had a house fire, he is a nervous Nancy about things in the walls. So this that everybody should have one of these. Just saying that.
Yeah,
just amazing.
Yeah, the only well, I'm not really used to it yet because I haven't used it enough, but it really won't look through things. If, heat's being generated against the wall and there's a spot there on the wall, that's just, a couple of degrees hotter than what's around it, then that's going to show up. But there could be something behind an object that, you can't really see. And that's what I found there, when I was looking around that site. Some things obviously came right to the front. There was no doubt there was something hot behind it, but others didn't.
Yeah, that was a fascinating segment, George. Thanks for bringing that to us. And Amanda, somebody in the chat room is asking if you have a link to that detail map of the fire locations. If you can put that in the chat room, that would be most handy if you have that. So very good. All right,
people are already putting that on there, but if they don't have it right, I'll do it as well.
Yeah, good. Oh, there, somebody just did. Fire.ca.gov, current incidents. Yeah, somebody just did. So there you go. It's in the chat room. All right, everybody, thanks for joining us tonight on Ham Nation. We appreciate you being here. And for all of the folks enduring the fires in California, our hearts and prayers go out to you, and we wish you nothing but the best. And we're here for you. So until next week, I think Bob Heil will be back, and we'll have a segment from Randy as well. Looking forward to that. I believe we'll have a segment from Randy as well. We're looking forward to that. So from all of us to all of you, good night, God bless, and we'll see you next week here on Twit. Good night, everybody.